Sergeant Sacker. Listen to me. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Our squad cars on the way over there right now. Just get out of that house.
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Do you hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
Hello, welcome back to YCFT. We're doing a versus.
It's been a while.
It has been. I think we only did one in the last year, and that was The Omen. If I remember correctly,
yeah.
I think.
I forgot about that. I was going to say Haunted Mansion.
No, The Omen was definitely the last one we did. So we are doing a versus for When a Stranger Calls. We're doing 1979 versus 2006.
Yeah, baby.
For some context, we actually watched a lot of When a Stranger Calls content. The
did.
Blu-ray that I picked up had a 2K restoration of the original short film The Sitter, which came out in 1977. Halloween came out in 78, which inspired the director, what's his name again?
Fred Walton,
to develop the script into a feature film. So they basically can ride the coattails of Halloween. So in 1979, we got the feature adaptation.
We did.
Called When a Stranger Calls, starring Carol Kane. Also on the Blu-ray was the sequel, the TV sequel that came out in the mid-90s called When a Stranger Calls Back. So we watched that.
Yep, we did. Also starring Carol Kane.
Also starring and another returning cast member,
Charles Durney.
And then we watched the remake from the mid-2000s. So we've watched them all, and kind of cards on the table, we like all iterations of this story.
Yep.
Each have issues.
They're similar in so many ways, but also different enough.
Yeah.
That they stand out from each other. But the reason I'm really, really, really excited to do this comparison is because When a Stranger Calls, the 2006 movie, that's one of those films that I grew up watching. It was a big horror film for me when I was a teenager, and it was a film that I would show friends on sleepovers and stuff. I have a lot of childhood memories of it, but I have always maintained that it is a solid remake, and I stand by that.
During a time where, like, let's look at other remakes that came out at the same time. We had the Black Christmas remake. Ironic, as we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'd say like 2 years later, we had the Prom Night remake, 2008.
Yes.
So not the highest caliber of remakes in that particular time span.
No.
But I actually do think the film's pretty good. So the opening of the original film is basically the same as the short film. Babysitter turns up.
Yep.
Just as the parents are leaving, the kids haven't been well, so they're already asleep, so she doesn't, told not to check in on them.
Yeah, don't disturb.
Fridge is stocked.
Make yourself at home.
Make yourself at home. They're going to dinner, but if there's time, they're going to go to a movie, and they'll be back just before midnight. Mm-hmm. She gets settled in. She's doing some schoolwork. Is she doing schoolwork in the original one as well as the...
Yeah.
She starts getting strange phone calls. Mm-hmm. Enough where it starts making her feel a bit nervous, so she rings the police. This day still because they tell, whistle down the phone, it'll blow his eardrums. And
great.
So, is he actually doing anything?
No,
and
he just keeps calling.
Yeah.
Hey, have you tried whistling?
What?
Well, if you can find a good loud whistle somewhere in the house, blow it into the phone hard next time he calls. Probably break his eardrum. He won't bother you after that.
She thinks that he's outside. She thinks that he can see her. So police say, you got to keep him on the phone long enough for us to get a trace.
Yes.
Well, he's only on the phone for a few seconds. She tries to keep him on the phone. She gets a call from the police saying, this is the inspiration from Black Christmas. The call's coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
Which is very much Black Christmas.
Dun, dun,
Leave me alone!
Jill, this is Sergeant Sacker. Listen to me. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Our squad cars on the way over there right now. Just get out of that house.
Upstairs door opens. And she went to the door at this point. She's desperately trying to get it open. We see a silhouette come onto the hallway.
Yeah.
She opens the door, and this is exactly the same in the short film as it is in the feature film. It cuts to like a police officer, still of a police officer, like jump scare to after the fact. So she has escaped.
Yes.
The killer has been caught, but the kids are dead.
Yeah.
He tore the kids apart with his bare hands. There was no murder weapon.
He done killed the kids.
Based on the timeline, they were probably dead before she arrived.
Which is equally so they were killed when the parents were still in the house.
Yeah.
It's Oh, it's horrible.
And so he was up there the entire time.
Waiting patiently.
I thought that was going to be the whole film.
Yeah.
I really did. So then the film kind of starts following another character because he escapes from the hospital, and we're kind of following him. So we have our other main character, who we just mentioned before. What's his name again?
Oh, Charles Durning.
Yeah.
Yes. The police officer, you mean?
Yeah.
His character is called Clifford. He's been hired specifically by the father of the kids that were killed, Dr. Mandrakis.
So he's trying to track him down, but we as the audience, we know where he is because we actually follow our killer. And what's the name of our killer?
Kurt Duncan.
Now, the actor that played him...
Tony Beckley.
He passed away not long after this, didn't he?
He passed away 6 months after the film.
Which is a shame, 'cause I think he is very good in this.
He's excellent in this.
And because we see his face for a lot of it. From the electroshock therapy he's been having, he has amnesia. He has no idea who he is. He's very much homeless at this point, and he kind of gets infatuated or obsessed with this one woman that he sees in the bar. Follows her home, makes her uncomfortable, but at the time doesn't actually seem to be a threat to her.
He says he just wants to talk to her.
I think maybe he might she might resemble one of his nurses or something.
Potentially.
And that's why. And this is the odd bit of the film for both of us, I think, because we're following this character for so long. Carol Kane, Jill, doesn't come back in until the end of the movie, and this is set like 7 years later.
Yeah.
So our main character bookends the film, but we've got this middle section where we're just following our killer, who you can't help but feel bad because he gets beaten up. He's clearly scared. He just doesn't know who he is.
It's interesting because Jill Johnson, that famous sequence where she's being harassed with phone calls and the call is coming from inside the house, you got a GTFO. That is essentially a cold open.
It's the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, done, over. And the film takes a drastic U-turn to, as you say, we're then following the killer. Now, I had seen the original movie a long time ago. For the life of me, and I don't know why, I could not remember anything beyond the opening scene. So in my head, the entire film was the opening stretched out into a feature-length movie, which is, what happened in 2006, which we'll get to. So all of this of following Kurt around, is it New York that it's set in? Or no, it's LA, I think. They filmed it in LA anyway. Following him around, just, like a down and out, not really knowing what's going on, trying to find someone to talk to. It was strange to me, and it took me a little while to kind of get used to, like, okay, this is the story that this film chose to tell.
Why I'm asking you, like, does Jill come back into this? Because
I couldn't remember. I genuinely could not remember.
I saw this because we see a lot of homelessness as well, and you got to think about the 70s. There was a massive homeless epidemic across America, but also this is the time where a lot of people would sometimes choose to go into psychiatric hospitals, and it's like literally, the one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Claiming insanity. Sometimes just so that they could get a bed and free square meals, or just so they don't have to deal with life. And then a lot of times it would show the failure of the American healthcare system. You have some people that would be, released into the world without the right support systems, and when they're not actually equipped to handle real life. So I think it's meant to be a commentary on all of that. And I know in this case he has escaped, but I think he is meant to be a representation at this point of someone who was not ready to be released and is just being now bullied by the world, because he comes across as, oh, he's just some bum, he's just homeless, but he doesn't know who he is.
I think,
and it's bizarre. We know he murdered children with his bare hands, but you can't help but feel sorry for him.
This
and I think that's actually quite skillful in a way, but it's an odd choice. It
is a very odd choice. And it's interesting because I think in a way it kind of reflects the time period the film was made. It's no surprise that this came hot on the heels of Halloween 1978, where Michael Myers was undeniably, the most famous element of that story. So it kind of stands to reason that when they came to adapting the original short into a feature, that with Halloween in mind would think, right, well, we need to fixate on the killer. This is what audiences want. They want to see the killer. But what I think is a bit confusing, and again, this might just be the time period. If it was made now, this exact film remade now, I think it would be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more coherent with with his story. But it doesn't help. Yes, the opening scene, we know he murders 2 children. Our other main character, Clifford, who is a likable character. You know, I love watching Charles Durning.
I was really happy to see him return for the second one.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily help matter, or, you know, it confuses things that our other lead character is hell-bent on getting revenge on what he perceives to be this crazed killer that is deranged and will not stop at anything to satisfy this bloodlust. It doesn't help that that's his drive, that's his goal, and it feels like the movie at one point is really trying to underline the fact that this killer is evil and he should be killed. It's the only way to stop him. But then those moments are juxtaposed with scenes of him naked in a public toilet breaking down and having flashbacks of that night of the murder. And it's almost like, yes, the treatment that he's been having has made him forget who he is and what he did. So we are essentially watching this murderer have a bit of a breakdown and not really understanding what's going on. There's that really excruciating scene in the bar where he first meets Tracy, that woman that he fixates on, and it kind of seems like, well, is he sort of sussing her out to be the next victim? And she, you know, gets a bit antsy and she's like, "No, get off me! Stop it! Stop touching me!" And another guy in the bar comes to her defense and then just proceeds to beat the shit out of Kurt. And even Tracy kind of, you can tell she looks a bit guilt-ridden. She didn't mean for that to be the outcome. And I'm watching it and I'm like, I just don't know how I'm meant to feel about this character. He is a child murderer. Why do I feel sorry for him? but I do. And I think the film is a bit confused as well. I don't know how we're meant to feel about him. Especially when, you know, we have our policeman, Clifford, our private investigator, telling us, no, he's like a wild animal and he needs to be put down. There's 2 different things combating with each other there.
Strangely, I actually think Halloween did go along this type of storyline quite well in Halloween Kills. Controversial, I know. We like that movie.
We do.
But that has so much more emphasis on the psychology of Michael. Why does he do what he did? It's kind of funny. This is like something that was trying to ride the coattails of Halloween, thinking, right, people want to see the killer, but should we go around the road of like, but why? Why does he do this? After being chased down, he kind of just remembers and kind of goes back to how he was before, just kind of regresses. And that's finally when Jill comes back into the story.
Yeah.
So she is a mother now.
Yes.
And she's successful in whatever it is she's up to.
Yeah. There's an article about her in the paper, which Kurt clearly sees.
Yeah. You are now obsessed with Carol Kane, aren't you?
She's my latest thing. I absolutely adore her.
It's the same, she did When a Stranger Calls Back. She did Addams Family. And they definitely aged her up.
She plays the grandma in Addams Family Values. She wasn't in the first one. She's only in Values. And, you know, like, it's obviously, like, really good makeup. But she was only, like, in her early 40s when she played the grandma. And it just blew my mind. I was like, fucking hell, that's Carol Kane. And I just adore everything about her.
What's the line you've been saying all week?
Luxor, Nuxor, burst and burn!
What is she doing?
Just a curse. Have a nice day.
When in Addams Family Values and she curses Debbie. And she's like, just a little curse. Have a nice day. Then she just blows her a kiss and then just leaves. I adore Carol.
I love the way she speaks. I do think she's very good in this and in the sequel.
She's an unlikely star of a movie, Carol Kane. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean any offense to her at all because I adore her. I think she is wonderful. But as a lead, she's an unusual choice, you know?
She doesn't have the same look about her.
No.
I think that's something I liked about the sequel. Not that this is a video on that one, but she actually got to fight in that one.
That was the appeal for her as well.
The appeal for her was to be able to fight back against an attacker. In this one, so she's out for dinner and she gets a call and this is amazing. She just breaks down in this restaurant, screams.
She gets a call from him.
Gets a call from him saying, "Have you checked on the children?"
And yeah, it's an immediate reaction that she has.
Immediate, because obviously there is a babysitter currently watching her kids.
Hello? Hello?
Have you checked the children?
So they rush home, and everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Everything is fine. She gets into bed. She's still a bit like nervous. Her partner goes, he checks on the door, he checks on something else, and she kind of like goes to bed. He gets back in. The killer gets in bed with her. Oh my god, it's pretty terrifying when she realizes
It's not her husband.
that's not her husband, and he turns and they have a bit of a scrap, and the killer ends up just getting shot. It's a very short sequence.
Yeah.
The kids are still alive. The husband is still alive. He was just knocked out. The movie's giving us whiplash from suddenly being forced to kind of like feel sorry for this character. Suddenly, oh my god, oh no, he's gone back. He's gone back for Jill. He's gone back to finish the job. Then movie's over.
Yeah. What are we meant to feel for him? I don't know. I don't know what the movie's trying to tell us. And I'm saying this from a perspective of someone that really loves this movie. I think
it's a good film.
great
I did
film.
really enjoy it.
I am thoroughly entertained by it. It makes very unusual choices, and I can't remember what film we were talking about, but I've said something similar to this before, where if it was made today, I think the psychology of the killer would not necessarily be explored fully, but I think it would be a bit more coherent. I think we understand psychopathy and sociopathy a little bit more now.
I think Jill would be suffering from problems of her own, and I think part of her treatment is they would make her visit him.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of like what they wanted to do in Halloween 2018, when the podcasters are trying to get Jamie Lee to go see Michael for that interaction. Wow, a lot of comparisons to the new Halloween.
I know.
That, I think, would work.
Yeah.
But then at least he'd have some scenes in the middle of the movie of them together, a reason for him to be reminded about her.
Yeah.
And maybe even that could be the catalyst that brings him back.
Because talking about how we're compelled to like explore origins of killers and understand, why they do what they do. I don't need that from When a Stranger Calls at all. But when you think about it, it's okay. He kills 2 children at the beginning for reasons we don't know why. He then fixates on this middle-aged lady called Tracy. And the film doesn't necessarily make it clear if he wants to ultimately kill Tracy or if he just wants someone to talk to and he kind of just latches onto her. But even if he does want to kill Tracy...
It doesn't match his MO.
Because he's a child killer. So that doesn't quite make sense. And then the film doesn't really take any great pains to explain why he then suddenly changes and snaps out of this reverie and suddenly want to kill Carol Kane again.
Yeah.
So I don't mind it because I enjoy the film enough and it surprised me enough that I can just go along with it. But there is another part of my brain that's like, it's just, it feels a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
So in some areas, but all in all, I do think it's a great film.
I do have a lot of similar issues with the sequel, like When a Stranger Calls Back as well. So I know that's just the way this director writes and works.
Fred Walton, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. This film was given an R rating because PG-13 just didn't exist.
We're told a lot more than what we see.
Yeah.
And anything that involves child murder is always going to be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
As it should be.
As it should be. Yeah.
So should we jump over to 2006?
Let's do it. Yeah. So this was the version I was familiar with more.
Yeah, I hadn't. In fact, I had not seen any of these. I realised that this current batch of filming, it was mostly films that you've introduced me to.
Yeah, I know. When a Stranger Calls was a big success.
Oh, it was. I really enjoyed it. Like, enough for me to. It was almost the next day. I was like, "Can we watch this? Can we watch the sequel?" Just because I want.
Yeah.
To do my part, do my research. So about 2006. So that's directed by
Simon West.
Simon West and stars.
It stars Camilla Bell.
There's a couple of other actresses in this that went on to have quite big careers.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson is in this. Kate Cassidy is in this, which is the Black Christmas connection.
Yeah, she was in Black Christmas that same year. But our lead actress, whose name has literally just left my brain, was also asked to be in that film, and she said no because she was already doing this one. But she also didn't like horror.
No, she wasn't.
It was a more psychological approach, the thriller approach that attracted her to this one. But I find it kind of interesting that they both almost ended up in the same movie. Kate Cassidy went on to be massive with the CW, with playing roles in the Arrowverse, and very good. Obviously, Tess Thompson is pretty big at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't see this film as a remake of the '79 film. I see it as another adaptation of the short film.
Yes,
Because,
I agree.
like you previously mentioned, this film is just a feature-length version of the first 15 to 20 minutes of the original film.
Yeah.
That short film.
It's the babysitter trapped in the house.
It's the babysitter trapped in the house for the whole film.
That is the movie.
That's what I think works as a remake because it's such a different approach. It cuts out a lot of that, stuff that we were kind of just, not necessarily complaining about, but curious about.
Yeah.
And streamlines the story to one night.
It's one night, yeah.
Obviously, the opening to the film can't be as strong because it's not this.
Yes.
It's not what this did. We see we hear about the aftermath where in another state, a few days prior, the killings from the original film happened. So, but in this one, the babysitter was killed as well. So that is kind of like our prologue. We know that there's a killer around doing something that's the same MO as the killer for this film.
Yeah. Killing kids, killing babysitters.
We then introduced our main character, Jill. She is going through a bit of a breakup because her boyfriend kissed Katie Cassidy.
Teenage drama.
And this dates the film in a very specific way. Her father is played by Clark Gregg.
To me, he's Jennifer Grey's ex-husband. Unfortunately, that's the only thing I know about the guy.
You know, this massive role he had in the MCU. Not even that long after. The first Thor film was like 2009, I want to say.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. We know him for different reasons. We know him. That's all that matters.
Yeah. He has taken her phone off her because she went over her minutes by about like 800 minutes or something.
She's going through a breakup. What do you want a girl to do?
But what I like is you couldn't even have waited till a certain time because there's certain times of the day back then where your minutes would cost less outside of like, just I couldn't even wait till the evening.
Yeah.
Jill, you went over by 800 minutes. Do you know how much that cost us? At least you could wait until after 8 o'clock.
I know.
It just dates the film in such a specific way for me because I remember this.
Yeah. Same.
I also know because a friend of mine who watches this channel, I remember in school he once left MSN logged on his phone.
Oh,
and it racked up, and that was just for a day.
Yeah.
And it racked up like a £200 bill. Not even using, just being active in his phone because you had to turn it off afterwards.
These were problems that we had.
Yeah, so he got in a lot of trouble. It might even been more. But that also leads to one of the best reasons for me for a character not to have their personal phone. Her dad has taken it off her to teach her responsibility because that has probably cost them a lot of money.
It's a punishment.
Yeah, it's a punishment. So obviously when she's in the house, there are going to be phones around, but she doesn't... There's something about losing that safety net of not having your own
mobile
personal phone. And it's not that, I haven't got any signal. Phones are a big part of this story. But I like having that taken away from her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's made to go babysit as a punishment. To learn, he wants her to learn responsibility. And something I think they should... What I reckon it isn't explicitly said, is I think he's essentially making her work off this phone debt.
Yeah, it's a nice little moment between dad and daughter in the car when he's driving her there. And also, the reason he's driving her there is because part of her punishment is he's also taking her car off her. So she's got no phone, no car for a month. So again, we know our character is going to be stranded at this house with no easy escape. Anyway, there is
at no point will her dad come pick her up because the doctor, when he returns, he will drive her back. Which was the arrangement at the end in the original film as well. There is a lot of similarities still, just like little details.
There are so many little details that are consistent across basically every iteration.
There's been spooked by the ice machine in the fridge. That's always one.
The name of the family that she babysits, the Mandrakuses, Dr. Mandrakis.
That's the same.
Even like the way, like he puts the coat or the necklace on his wife.
Yeah.
And
the kids always just getting over an illness and they're already asleep when they get there.
Don't check on them. Yeah. Oh, but the fridge is stacked, so help yourself. There's so many like little things, and I love that.
They didn't say, oh, whistle down the phone, it'll blow his eardrums. Phones have moved on a little bit from there. Yeah. Now we have minutes.
Yeah.
Specific minutes.
But I love that scene with dad and daughter in the car where, he's telling her, like, you got to be responsible. And she's like, I am responsible. And he's like, yeah, but I mean about when it hurts.
Dad, I am responsible.
I mean when it's not easy. When it's complicated, when it hurts, that's when it counts.
Responsibility is so much more than just keeping it together when things are okay.
Yeah.
So much of life is having to be responsible when the chips are down.
Is a theme going through the rest of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta say, the house is stunning.
It's something.
It's just like, insanely looking house, like lots of like wood, big open glass windows with like nice wooden floors, like metal as well. It looks like an architect's house.
It probably is.
It's also,
I know he's a doctor.
It's also out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's isolated, baby.
Isolated. Then they changed the stakes a little bit because you need to add a bit more in with this lasting all night. So there is a housekeeper there who is occasionally goes to look after a sick mum, so she might
be around.
There's like a weird like
guest house.
There is a guest house for their elder son in college who drops in unannounced.
Yeah.
There's also in the middle of the house is a weird like microclimate thing, like a pond, and it's got loads of canaries in it.
I think
and the cat is always watching the canaries.
Chester.
Which I always saw that as Jill is the canary and the killer is the cat watching her.
I'm gonna
through the windows, through the glass.
I think for the sake of ease, let's just call that little area the greenhouse.
The greenhouse.
That's what it is.
Then a lot of it plays out kind of similar. She starts getting creepy phone calls, but it adds in a few extras. So she starts getting prank calls from her school friends who are at this big bonfire with bad signals. So she can't really tell. One is a genuine prank call from them, and a few are not. And she does ring the police about this.
She does.
She also gets a visit from Katie Cassidy.
Yeah.
Who basically wants to confront her, basically saying, you shouldn't blame me for kissing your boyfriend. Like, he's the one that did it.
I'm a bitch. I know that, you know that, everybody knows that.
You know, I fancied him when I was a kid. I deserve this.
I deserve my try.
It's a fucking weird apology,
It
Katie
is.
Cassidy, but okay.
It is, but adding a few more characters, and she's like, oh, how do you get in? Because there's an alarm with a code.
Yes.
So every time it goes off, she has to ring the alarm company, which I like that element of it as well. And she got in through the garage because the garage is open, so now we start feeling a bit uneasy.
I would just like to say, at this point, whether we're talking about 1979 or 2006, both Jills act how I think you would act in this situation. I don't think they do anything stupid. I don't think they're doing anything wrong. They're on edge. They recognise that something creepy is going on. They call the police, call the phone company. And later on in the movie, especially Jill 2006, she calls the Mandrakeses, she calls her dad, she calls all the right people.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, we got to give credit to all the Jills.
I do have to say, I feel very unrealistic that she can remember all these numbers for people that she's ringing, considering she doesn't have her own phone.
Yeah.
But I got to give props to 2006 Jill for one thing. She checks on the kids.
She does.
Now, I always saw this. I don't know if it's just the world that we live in. Now, I can't imagine a world where a babysitter would come around, and even if the kids are asleep, you wouldn't check in on them before leaving, or just making sure the babysitter has seen the kids.
Yeah.
Even the opening of When a Stranger Calls Back, it's a similar, the exact same thing. That was just a great opener, by the way. So the short film, the original film, and its sequel, at no point does the babysitter check on the kids. And I just don't, in my mind, it's not realistic to me that the parents wouldn't have a look in on them before they go. Jill checks on the kids.
Yeah.
So that gives her props to me, and that elevates this film up. Like, yes, Jill, be smart about this.
Yeah, it's a big thing as well. It's a simple thing, but it's a big thing in the scheme of things.
And because the script kind of fucks this Jill a little bit, because the other Jills, they get to leave once they realise the call's coming from inside the house. Because this film has to last for over the rest of the that night, she has to stay.
Yeah.
Because the kids become a part of the story, because these kids are not killed.
No.
In the way that the others are.
It's the main difference, I guess.
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Do you hear me? It's coming from inside the house. You need to get out of there right now.
It really does make it feel like a completely different adaptation, and I just really like that. Also, thinking of how the film looks really clean, and just the use of like this really modern house surrounded by this like dark greenery, surrounded by water as well, and all the glass. The film looks really nice, especially compared to like Black Christmas is very stylish, but it's very, very grungy. Then you get to like, I think Prom Night 2008 is a pretty ugly looking film.
Yeah.
They're very much like I call it I don't even know it's a bit early, but I always think it's like they just put an Instagram filter on the footage. I even have that problem going all the way up to Scream 4 in 2011. I don't like, it just looks like a filter's been put on the footage. It's not been properly colour corrected. This film looks nice.
It's one of the reasons I've always loved this movie. I've always just thought it looks nice, yeah. But also even just the colour palette of the film, it's very autumnal. Like the design of the house, there's lots of browns, and yeah, you mentioned there's lots of wood, there's lots of black, there's lots of oranges and red tones, and I it's just, yeah, it's very, very autumnal. It was cozy.
I was like, she's almost wearing the exact same outfit of the typical final girl of the era. She's got the jeans, the belt with the big belt buckle, and they'd usually have like a white vest top, and I think she does, but she has a pink top over the top of it. And I'm like, right, she's different. She has dark hair, which was quite unusual for final girls at the time.
Ah.
The director specifically didn't want to go for a blonde. They sort of wanted someone with darker hair.
I was going to say, there's comparing a specific moment with 79 and 2006. The call she gets from the killer, where she realizes, oh God, he's watching me. How were the children?
How were the children?
I love it in 2006 because the camera work and the music and everything, it's this sudden realization of, oh my God, I'm being watched.
Yeah.
He's watching me. He can see me. And then you've got that whole frenzied scene of her closing the curtains, and she rings the police again, and I love that.
Yeah. She looks out towards the the lake house?
Guest house.
Guest house. Where she sees a silhouette, and she assumes that it's...
Yeah. Okay.
It's the one mistake she makes is she does leave the house to go to... Although she locks the door behind her.
She sets the alarm. She locks the door. I will give it... It is... Ultimately, it's not the smartest decision she makes to leave the house and leave the kids. But she is panicked at this point.
But she assumes that either Rosa, the housekeeper, or the other son is there because she has seen Rosa in the house.
Yeah.
Even after the family leaves.
Yeah.
So I can understand why she wants to go and check it out.
Yeah.
But again, she's out the house at this point. And I like that she goes back.
Yeah.
Because again, like, it's that thing of like being responsible even when it's hard. The responsible thing is to go back and check on the kids.
Yeah.
And not just... And she has the opportunity to leave right now.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah. I like all Jills.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about the killer in this one.
No.
The killer's played by two people.
Yes. Technically, we have phone voice killer, and then we have actual person killer.
Both of which, before we say the names, were in a film together in 2004.
Yeah.
Alien vs. Predator.
They were indeed. Phone killer is portrayed by Lance Henriksen, who
is a legend anyway.
Yeah, legendary.
Great voice.
As well. So that is Lance Henriksen.
Andrakis residence.
Is everything okay?
Talk to Andrakis.
The killer in the film, like the body essentially that they use, is a guy called Tommy Flanagan, I believe.
He's quite famous for having a Chelsea smile.
Yeah.
In real life, like he was jumped while after doing a DJ gig, and yeah, he still continued to get film roles afterwards. And he doesn't often play bad guys either.
No.
But it kind of like the way the light kind of catches the scar in certain scenes. It's really menacing. But the choice to have a different voice makes the character feel slightly otherworldly because even the voice doesn't quite match the body that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And in a lot of other situations, I think that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But I think because again, he's mostly casted in shadow. Because it's not like other films. Even going back to compared to like Halloween, where we see Michael in the background a lot. We don't really see the killer until he's fully revealed when she checks on the kids and he's in the rafters looking down on them.
Yeah, he's kind of
like
crouched.
a cat waiting to pounce.
Like a gargoyle.
I say that's why I think that the cat looking at the canaries earlier has been a representation of like the killer in Jill.
Yeah. I gotta say as well, a few things. The portrayal of the killer is arguably the biggest difference between 79 and 06. 79, we've established, we spend a lot of time with Kurt Duncan once he escaped from the asylum. The killer in 2006, we learn next to nothing about this guy.
That he is a serial killer because he's done this before.
Yeah. But we don't spend any time with him. We barely even see his face. We don't even see his face in full. We just see it's sort of slightly silhouetted. And I really like that decision because ultimately his backstory, who he is, what he does, it's not important.
Doesn't matter.
He's there because he wants to kill. And that's enough. What I do find interesting is the big showdown when he's chasing them throughout the house. He lets the kids escape, and he kind of hones in on her. And I like that decision.
Yeah.
Like at this point, he's not really asked about killing the kids.
I think he sees her at this moment in time. She is the threat.
Yeah.
And I think he knows the kids will be easier to catch later. When he closes the door and he grabs her by like, the hair, and the little door closes behind her. Oh,
when she has to rip her scalp away. It's not a scalp, but she has to, force herself to. Yeah. I gotta give it to, again, both Jills, Carol Kane, Camilla Bell. When they are confronted with the killer in the house, they both give it their all.
Yeah.
And Jills put up a really decent fight.
There's something that has to be said for 79 Jill. When she encounters the killer at the end, it is in her own bed. She is so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really she manages to like kick him out and keep him away, but doesn't really get a chance to fight back. It's with the killer in the second one that she can properly fight back. And it's different. It obviously is very, very different in this one. And I think the tussle between them is filmed very well, because this director was an action director.
He was, yeah.
He directed Con Air.
Yeah.
Which I love Con Air. Con Air is a great film.
I think in 2006, there are a lot of moments in the movie where Camilla Bell is not the strongest of actresses. I think that's fine to say. Like, there were certain moments where she's on the phone to the police and she's, the character is meant to be frightened and meant to be really on edge, but it kind of comes across as a little bit fake, the hyperventilation and everything. But as soon as she goes into the kid's bedroom to save the kid, she makes the decision to go and get the kid. She could have easily left the house, but she goes in to get the kids, which, props for her, admire her for that. As soon as she sees that killer, she instantly goes into survival mode.
Yeah.
She locks them into the bathroom. She gets the light fixture. She wraps it around the door handle so he can't get in. She tells them to hide in the greenhouse. She pushes the button so all the water spurts and they've got a little chance to hide. She gets the poker. She jabs him in the hand with the poker. She fights him on the stairs. She throws the vodka bottle into the furnace and she lights it so you get the fire.
Yeah.
She does shit. She fights back.
She had to do a lot of physical training, because at the beginning of the film it shows that she's a runner.
Yeah.
So she had to train for months to be like, it's established early on in the films that she is physically quite fit.
Yeah.
And she's gonna be able to outrun a killer in most situations.
Yeah.
I was just very surprised by how much I enjoyed this film, and the killer isn't actually killed. He's just arrested.
He's simply
like
arrested.
in the original. This is when we find out we see who the policeman is that she was talking to on the phone, and he's what's his face from The Office.
Oh, it's Roy.
It's Roy from The Office.
Cam's Roy. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't you say it was a great outtake where he's driving away in the police car and she just kind of goes, "Call me." It seems like everyone had a lot of fun working on this one.
I have to try and find it. Yeah, there's a great scene where she's with the paramedics and whatnot, and she's a bit dazed, and slow motion you see the killer being driven away in the police car, but he stares at her, and he like gives her this really intense eye contact. There's a good blooper where Camilla Bell just looks at him and she's like, love it.
Yeah,
love that. Yeah, it's a good ending as well, because he is just simply arrested, and again we know nothing about this guy other than he was going to kill her.
Yeah, and probably the kids.
And
he's already killed 2 people that night.
It's
because Katie Cassidy, I have no idea what her character's called. She's dead.
Yeah, and, Tiffany. I think.
And Rosa, she's dead.
Oh, Rosa's in the pond with the fishes. Yeah,
she sleeps with the fishes.
She sleeps.
And I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this one.
Yes,
especially because it kept making me think back to when we did the prom nights, and I really didn't like the prom night remake.
I think this movie has just been forgotten. This remake has been forgotten, and I think unfortunately that is because it came out during a time where slashers were not of the highest quality.
No.
And I unfortunately just think it's kind of got muddled in with the rest of them. And this is not a perfect film. I'm not saying it's the greatest horror film of that time.
It's just good.
But it's good, and it is effective. And I think to anyone watching who maybe did see this at the time or dismissed it, I would really recommend to give it another go, because I totally agree with you. It's not a remake of 79. It's a feature-length adaptation of the short film.
Yeah. It probably didn't help that Rob Zombie's Halloween was on the horizon.
Yeah.
They came out a year later. Also, it did financially do quite well.
Yeah.
Like, or did okay, and they were considering doing a sequel.
Yeah.
And I think it was Hayden Panettiere that was in talks. It was going to be called When a Stranger Calls Again.
Yeah.
Which is great. I just remembered another film that came out in 2006 that I didn't like. It was I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, fuck that movie.
And it also had awful colour grading.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This movie stands out, but a cut above the rest.
Based on the lighting and the colour.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason that didn't go ahead. But this film series has great naming conventions. I always think that I Always Knew What You Did Last Summer has like one of the best naming conventions, even if it doesn't make sense with the summers. But When a Stranger Calls, When a Stranger Calls Back, When a Stranger Calls Again. God, that's great. I love that. It's better than just having like two.
Yeah. Yeah, When a Stranger Calls, 2.
When a Stranger Calls, 2.
Yeah, it is
When
fun.
the stranger calls your neighbour. it just works.
Yeah.
So, and that just didn't end up becoming anything, and
No.
I'm kind of saddened by that.
No. But I watched Joe Blow, their channel. They did a little retrospective on When a Stranger Calls 2006. And they kind of arrived at the same conclusion we have, in that actually pretty darn good.
Mm. The OG story, obviously it's based on the urban legend, so this movie kind of had the advantage of the urban legend of the man in the attic, or, of the killer being in the house, was mentioned quite heavily in the film Urban Legend about 8 years prior. Was that 98? So people were more aware of that. Yeah. So probably benefited from it. But the core story of The Sitter and When a Stranger Calls is just really good, and I imagine quite easy to adapt, because it's something that everyone is naturally going to fear. Everyone's had moments in their home when you've heard a noise and just thought, in my mind, this is what makes adapting this story timeless. Obviously, the phones have changed and everything. I think it would even still work today. We've seen how the killer calling element can work with like some new Scream films. But because everyone always has a fear of home invasion, especially when it's not your home. Yeah. You're out of your comfort zone. Yeah. You could do a modern day interpretation of this that would still work. Yeah.
I totally agree. It's a very simple premise at the end of the day. And we've seen like 79 and 06, they take it in different directions. Yeah. Ultimately.
And both just work.
But they both work, on their own. One thing I think 06 has, just it's a little scene that is better than 79, is the reveal of the call was coming from inside the house. That revelation in 06, I think they just do it really well. I always get goosebumps when I hear it, because the score does this really interesting thing, and Jill's just, shocked face, and she drops the phone. Whereas 79, when that revelation hits, it's a little bit muted, a little bit understated. Like, Carol Kane doesn't really react. She just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave then.
I always like how they do it in Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
74 Black Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because obviously it being definitely needed inspiration. When she kind of... She looks at the stairs, so we're looking at her down from the stairs. And she could leave. But she doesn't know her friends are dead, and she needs to go check.
Oh, please answer me. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. That did
it so well. I can't wait to... We always watch that around Christmas.
Yeah.
I really wish we could have got a hold of the 2006. I tried, but I could not find a copy of that film. No. But it is available to rent on Prime, and that's how we ended up watching it.
I got a question for you.
You got a question for me?
For you. I got a question for you.
You got a question for me?
Have a nice day. Between 79 and 06, which one do you think you'd be more likely to watch as a casual viewing? Ooh. Which one do you think you're likely to be in a mood for?
I'm never really in the mood for kids being killed, to be perfectly honest.
That is the right answer. It wasn't
I want that on record. So, by that logic, I think I'd actually be more likely to watch 06. But from a practical standpoint, I own the 79.
Yes.
So it's a case of I could rent that movie again, or I could put this in the Xbox.
I like the deep logic that was applied there.
It's practical logic. If I can acquire a copy of 06, then that could change, but that is my stance.
I do have 06 on DVD. I feel like I say this in every video we do. It's just, the DVD is at my mum's home. Probably in the garage.
Probably.
As are most of those films. But I did have it. And I remember the DVD, it was a dark background and a hand holding a flip phone. And that was the cover of the DVD.
I remember seeing the poster, I'm like, that's crap.
I am also more likely to rewatch 06. I'm actually, but I can see myself recommending both of them.
Yeah.
To anyone and everyone. I think both adaptations are great.
Yeah. Who'd have thought it? I had no idea this would be the result we have going into these.
I know. It was a lot of fun. We didn't intend to watch every iteration of When a Stranger Calls. That's just what ended up happening.
We just had a good time doing it, to be perfectly honest. So
yeah.
Kind of rare that happens. We've watched extra things that we're not even doing videos on, but just watching the sequel was kind of invaluable to me.
Yeah.
Just for adding extra context.
Yeah.
Well, I like to do my research.
I like to do research. My only... There's actually quite a lot of plot holes in When a Stranger Calls Back.
Oh, there's loads.
Big gripe for me is, as cool as it is to see Carol Kane kick that guy's ass at the end, it's not really her fight.
Video for another day.
For another day.
Otherwise, this one will go on. This one will go on forever. So, have you got any notes left?
Have a nice day.
I'm going to throw it off to our channel members again. Specifically asking you two guys, have you guys seen it? Actually, I know neither of you have seen this, but obviously thank you guys for supporting the channel. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Helps us do things like buy this.
And have you checked the children?
Have you checked? Actually, one of them has children.
Bullshit.
Have you checked on the children? It sounds like I have really in-depth knowledge of our channel members, but no, they are my friends and we know them. To everyone else watching, thank you. Thank you for continually watching the channel. If you're new, welcome. Let us know if you've seen any adaptation of this story and what is your favourite adaptation?
Yep.
Who would you cast in a remake?
Oh.
That's not a question for you, that's a question for the audience.
I'm going to answer... No, not on camera, but I will think about that.
You'll answer off camera. So, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you when we see you.